participants present both in person and online.
Before we begin, may we request all the participants sitting behind to come forward. If all the students sitting behind come forward. There are still a lot of chairs empty in the front row. Okay, thank you very much. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you all to the international seminar commemorating the 56th Dies Natalis of STF Driyarkara, held in collaboration with the Institute for Peace Studies, Prince of Songkhla University, Thailand.
Today's discussion, titled The Return of the Alliance of Military and Oligarchy and the Fate of Democracy and Peace Initiatives in Indonesia and Thailand, brings together esteemed experts to explore the dynamics of power structures and their impact on democratic stability and peace efforts in our region.
Before we begin, allow us to introduce our distinguished speakers. We have Dr. Budi Harnavan from STF Driyarkara, who joins us on site. And we have Rungravi Shalem Sri Pniorot, PhD, from the Institute for Peace Studies, Prince of Songkhla University, who will be joining us today online.
And to guide our discussion today, we have Retno Darudewi GS Putri MA Mhum as our moderator from the University of Indonesia.
Now to officially begin our program, we shall pray together. We will observe a few moments of silence and pray according to our own faiths. The silence begins now. Let us conclude our prayer. Amen.
Now, may I kindly request everyone to rise and stand up for the singing of Indonesia Raya, followed by the March of STF Driyarkara. Thank you. Please be seated.
Now, to formally open this seminar, we would like to take the honor of inviting the Rector of STF Driyarkara, Dr. Simon Lili Chahyadi, to deliver his opening remarks. Please join us in welcoming him with a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much. I don't want to give any remark concerning these themes of ours about military and militarism and democracy in Indonesia. And I don't want to give also an introduction to this matter. But I would like to take this advantage to give my acknowledgement and to welcome all of you who are participating now in this discussion, not only online, but on site here. Welcome to you and have a fruitful discussion today. I would like also take this opportunity to thank especially our facilitators who will lead us to the discussion, especially Mas Budi, Mas Budi Hernawan. You are preparing all we need to have this conversation, this discussion today. And also, I would like to thank Mrs. Rungrawe, Chaler, it is difficult for me, Chalers Priniyorat. When I'm mistaken by pronunciation, please forgive me. For sharing her thoughtful impulses to enrich our discourse today. And naturally also to Mbak Daru, who will be moderating our discussion today. We made some collaboration in last year, especially during the Kant's discourses in Goethe Institute. I think we can do also in the next time this collaboration again. I would like to give my special thanks, my gratitude towards Mrs. Kusuma Koyai, the director of the Institute for Peace Studies from Prince of Songkla University, Thailand. It is also the same institution from Mrs. Rungrawe come. Thank you for this collaboration. Your participation makes us possible that we are now have these programs together. I do hope very well that in the years to come, in the semesters to come, we can also program some collaboration again with another matters. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the panitia, especially from the Senat Mahasiswa STF Driyarkara, which their special field commander, Romo Fristian, who have already and still organizing this seminar today. Dengan disiplin besi, tentara Jerman dan mulai dengan gaya sen samurai yang menghapuskan segala macam distraksi. Kita sekarang mengadakan pertemuan ini. Akhirnya, selamat menikmati pertemuan ini. Have an enjoyable discourse in this seminar. Thank you very much.
Dr. Simon, for your inspiring words.
Now, before we begin our discussions, I will introduce our esteemed moderator who will facilitate today's seminar. But first, I will read the CV of the moderator. Retno Daru Dewi GS Putri. She has an education background, associate's degree in English language from the University of Indonesia, bachelor's degree in English language and literature from Universitas Al-Azhar Indonesia, bachelor's degree in communication from Universitas Indonesia, master's degree in education from Brunel University London, master's degree in philosophy from Universitas Indonesia. And for working experience, internship staff in Tempo magazine, internship Bahasa Indonesia translator in Via Gogo London, Bahasa Indonesia lecturer in Columbia University New York, internship staff in Indonesian Embassy London, English for academic purposes lecturer Universitas Indonesia, editorial staff Yayasan Jurnal Perempuan, English instructor annually, Attorney General of the Republic of Indonesia, and English instructor, Lembaga Bahasa Internasional, Fakultas Ilmu Pengetahuan Budaya, Universitas Indonesia. And for volunteering experience, 2019 election team, Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia, New York, Secretary of Indonesian Students Association, London, Public Relation Officer of UI Taekwondo Club, Universitas Indonesia, Chairperson of English Diploma Student Association, Universitas Indonesia, and lastly for certifications and award, Foreign Language Teaching Assistant, Fulbright Association, and Columbia Faculty and Researchers Briefing, Student Resources Policies and Title IX, Columbia University, New York. Now let us welcome our moderator, Mbak Dewi, with a warm of applause. Thank you.
Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you very much for STF Driyarkara for having me in the celebration of the 56th Dies Natalis STF Driyarkara to talk about the topic that we have today, the return of the alliance of military and oligarchy and the fate of democracy and peace initiatives in Indonesia and Thailand. I think the topic that we have today is very related to what happened in Indonesia today. So before we start, I would like to thank fellow students, fellow academics, and fellow Indonesian citizens who went to the street for the last 1 week to demonstrate and to represent our anxiety on the questionable decision by our government today. Some questionable decision of our government does not really happen only in 2024. We have 1965, we have 1998, and somehow the use of the power of the military force is always used to execute those kind of human rights violation. Now, if we talk about the armed force against the human rights violation, I think in Indonesia, our brothers and sisters who live in the eastern part of Indonesia suffers more than we who privilegedly live here in Java, especially in Jakarta. They do not really have good access of information, access of education. From my fellow friends and colleagues who come from the eastern part of Indonesia, if they want to have good medical facilitation, they have to go to Java, and that's not cheap. And if you're talking about the suffer of people in eastern part of Indonesia, our brothers and sisters in Papua suffers the most. We know well how they experience exploitation in nature, mining, the expensive ticket to Papua and within Papua is validate how actually they are being estranged from the other part of Indonesia. It seems like they are designed not to be developed, not to be improved. And I think this kind of discrimination also happened in Thailand as well, our neighboring country in Southeast Asia. An example is the region of Patani, South Thailand, where it is dominated by the Muslim society. They experienced discrimination from the government and from the country itself that is dominated by people who believe in Buddhism. And yes, the power of the army, the military force is being used to execute these people who live in Patani. Up to now, from the last source I've read, 2,400 people in Patani died because of this conflict, including children who are definitely guilty, not guilty, sorry. Now, without further ado, that kind of topic, we have two experts here. The first one is our very own Dr. Budi Hernawan. So, Dr. Budi Hernawan is one of the lecturer here, as you know, in STF Driyarkara. He got his doctoral degree of philosophy from the Australian National University. Dr. Budi also the awardee of postdoctoral research fellowship at ELSAM. Some of his writings are "Let's Bulldoze and Occupy Them Now, Dismantling the Logic of Outsourcing in the National Strategic Project for Food Estate and Energy in West Papua." Another one is Melanesia Review, Papua Issues and Events 2002. And then also we have Torture and Peace Building in Indonesia, the case of Papua. And Dr. Budi is on an ongoing research titled Role and Influence of Local Faith-Based Organization in Addressing Humanitarian Crisis in Southeast Asia, a comparative study of Thailand's Deep South, West Papua, Indonesia, and Myanmar. And later, our second speaker is Rungrawi Chalerm Sri Pinyorat, PhD. She's a lecturer at Institute of Peace Studies, Prince of Songkla University. Her experience is also as a tutor and lecturer at the Australian National University. Three of her many publications are Separatist Conflict and Peace Process in Southern Thailand, Islam and the Struggle of Patani Liberation Movement after 2004, and Uneasy Military Encounters, the Imperial Politics of Counterinsurgency in Southern Thailand. Both speakers will talk about this issue of how military intervention in also conflict in Indonesia and also in Thailand. Let's give it up for the first speaker that we have today, Dr. Budi Hernawan. Pak Budi, the stage is yours. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Budi.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning to all of you. Also, those who join us from online, wherever you join us, you most welcome. Thank you for the organizer. I have been tasked by STF Driyarkara to present this topic, the return of alliance of military and oligarchy and the fate of democracy and peace initiatives in Indonesia and Thailand. The topic is quite timely for us here in Jakarta and beyond, but also for Thailand. Maybe people would guess that STF just repeating the topic of today is actually not the case, because the topic was decided by the Senate last December. So the lecturers already kind of prophetic idea that the situation of this week and the week to come already kind of predicated last December. Luckily, yesterday our students joined the, not yesterday, on Thursday, 2 days ago, joined the Kamisan event in Monas area, or in Patung Kuda. And I happened to steal the logo of Indonesia Gelap, hashtag Indonesia Gelap. My task today is quite challenging actually, because there are 3 different literature, different domains that I have to cook together. And this is big discussion. First, it's about democracy, it's a big issue. It's big literature. The second one is military studies on Indonesia and Southeast Asia. It's very extensive too. And the last one is also Papuan studies. So there's 3 very extensive literature that I have to cook for. Initially I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. Luckily now we are given 30 minutes, so I have a breathing space to convey. My title today is Papua and the Deconsolidation of Indonesia Democracy. So I try to frame these 3 different domains with the analytical framework of deconsolidation democracy. I will go one by one. Hopefully I can meet the expectation of the organizer. Next, please. So to discuss our topic today, I would divide our discussion into 3 parts. So I would like to explain what is deconsolidation of democracy first, and then we go into the problem oligarchy and the problem of military and how they join together becomes an alliance. In different literature, or it's also in democracy literature, they call it cartel party or cartel politics, is more kind of stronger than the term deconsolidation. But I use the term deconsolidation first, and then if you want to use the cartel party theory, that's also most welcome. Next, please. I think it's quite obvious here in the picture that we start with what is consolidation before we understand deconsolidation. In democracy, in theory of democracy, Wolfgang Merkel, the literature is there. I'm not sure whether it's clear, the slide. I would read from here. The first part is the consolidation consists of 4 elements. The first one is constitutions, establishment of constitutional organ and political institutions. And then the second one is the consolidation of party system. And then behavioral change among veto actors. In our context, veto actors means, it will come there, the oligarchy, the military power, but also various business slash also religious actors in this context, also in our context as ormas like this. And our situation is not unique. If you put into Southeast Asia, you will find it the same pattern in Thailand. That's why our colleague here, Dr. Rumrawi, will explain more from Thailand side. And if we go further to Myanmar, it's the same thing. To the Philippines, is more or less the same. And then after these three layers have been sort of laid out, then we able to anchor democracy into the society. And some of us, like Romo Muji, would still remember that he personally joined that event. That's very historic. I didn't join. I was already in Papua, joined different thing around the same area, the same thing. The time we demonstrated that Papua should be free from Indonesia around the same time. Next one. Now, after we understand what is consolidation, then we would analyze what it means with deconsolidation. In various literature of democracy, and I use Marcus Misner theory here, who sort of put together different stream of deconsolidation, then he defined democracy, deconsolidation is like this. Democratic deconsolidation is the process through which existing democracies rewind, lose, or otherwise fall behind the achievement in democratic development reached during prior phases of consolidation. And he is talking about three cases: Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines. So they experience more or less similar pattern, similar situation in the last 20, 30 years. And the elements, the indicator is here. There are 7 elements. First is clientelism, meaning patronage. We see in our Pilkada, our Pilpres, that if you don't have big men, you will not succeed. And the smaller case, if you don't have orang dalam, your situation, your life is going to be very difficult. Starting from producing or registering your ID, national ID, KTP, up to very complicated issue like political parties. You need your patron, you need your big man, you need your bapak in the system. No ibu, bapak. And then the second indicator is assertive military and police. That's when we will come into the military. And then non-democratic enclave, that's the 2 cases of today, is Papua and Patani. They experience similar situation. This is the 2 elements are the problem oligarchy, the rising wealth inequalities. If the wealth is equal, it's not a problem. Everyone rich, that's the idea of the Constitution, to be prosperous, to be justice for all. But if inequality of wealth, that's the issue. And then oligarchy of politics, and then populism and identity politics, and middle class illiberalism. Middle class itself, I will touch upon very briefly, but middle class itself is not an issue, but illiberalism of middle class is an issue. We'll go there bit by bit. Next, please. Let's start with rising of wealth of billionaire. About 20 years ago, Jeffrey Winters already identified from his empirical studies that 43,000 Indonesians control about 20%, their wealth is about 25% or 1/4 of our GDP. So less than 50,000 people. About 20 years later, the situation remains more or less the same. If it is 43, 20 years ago, now it's about 50,000 richest individual control like 50 billion of Indonesians. Maybe the situation is a bit worse, because then it's 43,000, now it's only 50 people. You can see in the big increasing gap of inequality is massive in 20 years. Let's see this statistic here bit by bit. We use US dollar because this is kind of international currency at the moment, unless Trump doing something else. Let's say the first one, accumulation of only 2% of the wealth of 50 richest people per year is about this one, 5 billion. This is not 5 million, 5 billion potential tax, meaning that their wealth can be used to feed us, to support us. And the top 3 billionaire, the increase of wealth is about 7. Okay. That increase of wealth of top 3 billionaire is more than 100%. It's more than 150%. It's 174%. Only in 3 years. So we see another indicator of gap. How much time that these billionaires spend their money to finish their money? If they spend their money 2 billion rupiah per year, or per day, they need 670 and 630 years. So you can see what they can build with their money. And you can see here the inequality in achievement of the rich. This is the indicator of the gap. The rich can be rich in only 6 years to achieve their status today. We, like us, would need 130 years just to survive, not to be rich. So these indicators, if you can download from this report, I recommend it, from Chelios. This is a think tank in Jakarta. Their statistic is staggering, and it's deeply worrying. Next, please. Now we have public official cum tycoons, meaning that they are public official and they are billionaire. The percentage of legislator who had the position of business is increased. In 1999, it's only 45%, but in 2009, it's the other way around, 54%. Meaning that our legislator representing who? Not representing us. They're representing first themselves and their wealth. Let's have a look at this statistic again. I start with this because it relates to us. If you work very hard, this is the time that we need to compete to reach the level of Gibran. Today, we need this year, 142 years, to be in the level of Gibran. So I don't know whether any of us will live that long, but that's the idea.
Budi, you have 15 more minutes.
Thank you. And it's unlike what people think that Jokowi is humble, simple, and always contributing to the public good. Statistically, his wealth increased more than 100% during his presidency. So this rhetoric, public rhetoric, this is all about populism that we come into that in a minute. Next one. This is the current situation of today. Just an example how the pattern remains the same. Who is in the cabinet? Who have the connection? This Minister of Defense has brother in the commissioner in Freeport. That brother has control over the mining, and this one of another company, and so on and so forth. I would recommend that you would download the report from Jatam from a few months ago, and you can see 70% of our minister, 70% have business affiliation. So when they think about gas, about petrol, about food, it's just gimmicks, I believe, because their preoccupation is to save their 70%. Next one, please. So the question for us in STF is it illegal to be rich? Is it unethical to be rich? So this is the answer. How did they get the wealth? First, they have monopoly in extractive industry, and they have control over land. They have sophisticated system to evade taxes, to pay tax. They have destroyed the environment, either in Manggarai or in Sulawesi Utara or else, and they control labor union. And 3 out of 4 former Jokowi minister now is in the current cabinet. One is president, and the 2 others remains in the cabinet. Next one, please. This is just illustration how these people, the minister control. This is the mining. This is the land. You can count how much land they control. Next, please. And billionaire, you can see here how they accumulate wealth. It's through mining. You can see in the percentage of half of their wealth coming from mine from 2019 until today. So if we talk about distribution of wealth and distribution of mining licenses, it's about getting wealth to your hands. So if STF wants to get rich, then ask for license to get the mining license, like the other academic institutions. Next, please. Now, oligarchy in the field. There's in the picture, Haji Isam is in the field in Merauke, and this is his tanker with 1,000 excavator doing the road construction 1 kilometer wide. There's no road in Indonesia and maybe in South Asia with 1 kilometer wide and 136 kilometers long. So we should suspect that under 1 kilometer that will be another natural project. Next, please. But the problem is why it's unequal. So you can see here the inequality. Billionaire and public officials increase accumulated wealth, but we, ordinary people, have limited access to basic needs, food, housing, energy, education. And public official always enjoys privileges. Next, please. Now we understand when Prabowo say we have to protect our natural resources and don't give it to foreign companies. Yes, of course, because it's reserved for us, for those who have license already. They're not talking about you, not talking about us, but talking about those who already have the wealth coming from mining. And staggering statistic here, the nickel industry, only in 6 months, able to decrease, not to increase the quality of life, to decrease the quality of life in 6 provinces. You can see here, Sulawesi, Maluku, and Nusa Tenggara Barat. So the promise of welfare is part of the populism. Next, please. And some religious organizations remains interested in mining. Next, please. What is the impact of our PSN, National Strategic Project? First, this is not my research, this is the founding of Komnas HAM. First, impoverishment. We're getting poor and poor. PSN is a source of violation of human rights. PSN has degraded the quality of people's life, and government gives priority for business rather than to human rights principle. So there's 2 different and opposite positions of the church leaders in Indonesia. So you can follow which one, it's up to you. Next, please. Why then oligarchy is bad for democracy? And that's what we need to answer. First, they dominate the participation in public and politics. They dominate the policy making. All legislation is produced, law is produced by them for the good of their own. And then domination of natural resources. And then it makes us don't believe in democracy anymore because it's just lip service. That's the long-term impact. Next, please. And then, because of the inequality, they have very good ingredients for populism, for all the promise in public, and that has been reproduced across Indonesia. Next, please. And then the middle class doesn't help us very much. They think about themselves. Now I'm going to, next please, into the second part about the military very quickly. Next one. So, next one please. Our military and Thai military have similar pattern as Praetorian. Praetorian means bodyguard. Bodyguard for whom? Bodyguard for the state interests and for the bodyguard for business interests. Next, please. And we have heard in the last few months that the military will expand the structure from 15 to 37, and then increase 100 battalions across Indonesia. Next, please. And this is at stake at the moment at the parliament, and people don't really follow. 2 major issues here. First, to revise the military law. At the moment, they only allowed to hold 10 offices in the government, and they want to increase not only 10 offices like Minister of Defense and those naturally go to the military, but they want to go over to the education sector, health, and so on and so forth. And then they want to lift the restriction that military should not go into business. This is very risky business, and if we're not so cautious, Senayan will give the blessing. Next, please. But if we go back, the question of military in the politics is not new. It's been in Sukarno until now, and then during Prabowo, it's gone into all different sectors in the society. It's entrenched. Next, please. Let's see here, according to Haripin from BRIN, the military already go into different sectors. From MBG, that's makan bergizi gratis, from lunch, agriculture, health, food security, bulog, including haji, urusan haji, hajj, forest conservation. This already go beyond the 10 offices allowed by the law. And if we ask about what the consequence for Papua, next please. This is the consequence. The unregulated military operation in Papua remains unaccounted for. We continue to have contradicting and conflicting policy. We have military operations other than war, unregulated business, military business remains untouched, and of course human rights violations remain unresolved. Let's see how physically they are there. Please, next. I'm not sure whether on the map. So this dot, the blue dots are the physical presence of the military. So you can see in Merauke, they are very heavy, very present, physically. This is the infrastructure. And across the 6 provinces, you can see how the military present almost everywhere and concentrated in where natural resources are located. This is Timika, where the Freeport, and the right arrows are the hot spots of the armed conflict at the moment. Next, please. And this is the problem that we already discussed, and the impact. Next, please. The refugee or internally displaced people in Papua now it's about, maybe it's not too clear there, it's about 76,000 is uncounted. Next, the conditions, they are neglected from our national consciousness. People are here not really aware that so many people in Papua have been displaced. The response is coming from the church. Next, please. They provide all the emergency response from both Catholic and Protestant churches. And the impact of human rights can be seen here. Next, please. The problem of torture, as I documented in my book, this remains unresolved. Next one. The pending human rights dossier. These 3 major issues that already investigated by Komnas HAM, concluded, reported, but no justice so far. Now, next one, we come into the end of my presentation, going back to Papua, the third part. What about then about peace initiatives in Papua? Can we still think about it? Because all the dominations is there. This is just to give you a bit of illustration how peace initiative evolved in Papua. This is 1999. I don't know why the character changed. Starting with National Dialogue, and then Second Papua Congress, and then Kampanye Land of Peace by the church leaders, and so on. If we go to next one, this is the message that, not me, but I quote here, from Tom Bianal. And Tom Bianal was formerly a deacon, Catholic deacon from the Diocese of Jayapura. He expressed this statement in front of Habibie inside the National house in front of all cameras, because at that time there's a meeting between 100 representatives of Papuans and all cabinets of Habibie. The whole cabinet expect that the Papuans wants development, wants inequality, and so on and so forth. Instead, Tombiana, representing the Papuans, asked for independence. Next. And this is the last one. Is it further non-engagement? Because so far, starting from Jokowi, there's no engagement from the government side to Papua. There's engagement with Habibie, holding national dialogue. There was an engagement from Gus Dur, holding Congress Papua during SPY. But since Jokowi, there is no engagement in Papua, although he visited Papua, according to the statistic, 18 times, almost every 3 or 4 months. But you talk about food security, like Prabowo now. I think that's the last. Next. Next. The concluding remark, does Indonesia Gelap adequately reflects the deconsolidation of Indonesia democracy, and the oligarchy has reached the level of domination. It's not only worrying, it has reached the level of domination. So whatever we do, we can't do better because the system has been under control. The return of military to public, not only, this is only about reinforce the domination, and the alliance has reproduced what we have experienced in the last 30 years. So, in the midst of the consolidation of Indonesia democracy, Papua has experienced the most difficult challenge. It has not only experienced invisible violence, but more importantly, unresolved gross human rights violation, armed conflict, and destruction of the environment. And finally, Papuan peace initiatives are on hold, since there is no government engagement since Jokowi administration. Thank you.
Give it up for Pak Budi. Thank you very much, Pak Budi. So, as Dr. Budi has mentioned earlier, I think the issue of nepotism is still something we need to fix here, because if you do not have a big man or orang dalam, someone who works in the inside, then you will never be succeed, like the Pilkada, for example, that has mentioned before. Also, it is still a male-dominated area, if only, just like Pak Budi said, more bapak than ibu. If they have different perspective from the females, probably the exploitation of the minority group might stop. And also, it is interesting that Pak Budi mentioned the 142 years to be able to reach those kind of amount of money. It reminds me of when Harvey Muiz was arrested for corrupting 271 trillion rupiah. I'm pretty sure the students here are using social media. The internet citizen counted already that you want to have that amount of money. You have to have a big amount of salary each month, which is impossible. Or students like you should work since you were a toddler, which is very impossible. And how to get that amount of money, just like Pak Budi said earlier, the wealth, half of their wealth, those billionaires, came from mining, exploiting. Also, we also have this another questionable decision from the government about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken, that university can have license to do mining, which is not related to the university program itself. I think around the world there's no such thing as university can have this mining company. But I think the decision was revised a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. Now, we will compare with the situation of this discrimination and exploitation of the minority group with the one that happens in Thailand. So online we have Dr. Rung Rawi, Do we have you, Dr. Rumrawi, here? Can you respond to us?
You hear me?
Hi, how are you, Dr. Rumrawi?
I'm good.
Okay, I think without further ado, you may start your presentation. You have 30 minutes. If you have 15 minutes left, I will remind you later, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, give applause please for Dr. Rumrawi.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Simon, Director of Driyarkara School of Philosophy, Dr. Budi, and Ms. Reno, our moderator. It is really a great pleasure to join you today to mark the 56th anniversary of the Driyarkara School of Philosophy. So what I will do today is to share with you the conflict in southern Thailand, particularly the peace building effort in the country. So the outline of my presentation is as follows. So I will provide you with the background of the conflict in southern Thailand for those who may not be very familiar with the issue here. And then I will talk about illiberal peace as a concept. And I will discuss this in the context of southern Thailand. So the area that we will talk about is in the very deep south of Thailand. I'm not sure how many of you have been to Thailand. So in Thailand, the majority of the people are Buddhist. More than 90% of the population in Thailand are Buddhist. But the area in the very deep south of the country are different. The demography of the area is different from the rest of the country. The majority of the people who live in that area are Muslims of ethnic Malay, about 1.3 million of them. The population in the Deep South are about 1.7 million people. So you can see the scene of the central mosque of Patani. This is during the Ramadan, where the female Muslim gather outside the mosque for the Tarawih prayer in the evening. And this is the scene of a Buddhist temple, a big Buddha statue in the temple, which is in Narathiwat province. So just to go back a little bit in history, an important landmark in history which has led to, the starting, is a starting point of the conflict, if we can say. In the early 20th century, Siam, Thailand, it was known as Siam during that time, was pressured to consolidate its power amidst the surrounding of the Western colonial power. During that time, Bangkok tried to restructure the administrative system and abandoned the local governing body in the Deep South, which at the time was running by the Raja or the king or the Sultan. So the local Sultan lost power in that area, and that's also, caused a lot of anger from the local Sultan in the area. So after that, in 1909, as you see on the screen, this is the Anglo-Siamese Treaty of 1909. This is an important treaty because it marked it led to the demarcation of the border between what is known as Thailand and Malaysia today. So the area in Pattani, Yara, Nalathiwat, and some part, the Muslim majority part of Songkhla became part of Thailand as a result of this treaty. But certainly that the Malay Muslims were not involved in this decision making, but they had to bear with the consequence of it, and they thought that the Thai ruler have no understanding of life. Yeah. So after this annexation, so we start to see the resistance from the Malay Muslim in the area. At first, it was peaceful. The figures that you see on the screen, he is a very prominent Muslim cleric, Haji Suluk Abdul Qadir, and in the 1940, he led the movement, a peaceful movement to call for autonomy in the area. As you can see here that he proposed the 7-point demand to the Thai government during that time, asking for an Muslim governor to be govern the area. He asked for the government to allow 80% of Malay Muslims to hold civil servant posts and to use Malay and Thai as official language in the area, to allow Islamic law to be used in the area, for example. So he proposed this petition to the government, but his petition was not seriously considered. But on the other hand, he was arrested as a result of this. He was put in jail, and then later he was released and disappeared. So the family believed that he was killed by the police. So after the disappearance, the mysterious disappearance of Haji Sulong, that really caused a lot of anger among the Malay Muslim, and it led to the emergence of the armed groups in the area. So we start to see in the 1960s the emergence of various armed groups in the area. These are the three major armed groups that emerged in the area. The first one was called Barisan Nasional Pembebasan Patani, or National Liberation Front of Patani. It was formed in the 1959. The second one was the Barisan Liberasi Nasional Melayu Patani, or the BRN. The third one was PULO, which was formed a bit later in 1968, Patani United Liberation Organization. These have been kind of the most well-known groups that have been operating from the 1960s. And these three groups are calling for independence. These are the shared goals, although in terms of ideology, the three might be a little bit different. So just to cut the long story short, the resistance has been going on and off, up and down, but it has never been completely ceased. The BRN has been kind of trying to galvanize more support from the local people. They did this in the 1990s, recruiting and indoctrinating new groups of fighters under the radar of the Thai authority. We start to see the presence of the movement in 2004 when there was a dramatic surge of violent insurgency in the area. So the violence has been continued for about 2 decades now. There have been about 22,000 violent incidents, leaving 7,600 people killed and more than 14,000 people injured. So that's kind of the background of the conflict in South Thailand. So let me move to the conceptual framework of my presentation. So I will be talking about mode of conflict resolution, mode of conflict management. So in theory, the idea of liberal peace has been quite prominent as a mode of conflict resolution after the end of the Cold War. So from 1990 onwards, we start to see liberal peace being prominent as an approach for conflict resolutions. It is characterized by internationally brokered peace negotiations and often accompanied by peacekeeping force or other form of military intervention, internationally monitored elections, and a focus on human rights, gender equality, and protection for minority, including the promotion of the rule of law, security sector reform, and constraint on the use of force by party to the conflict. So this is the mode of conflict management, conflict resolution that has been quite prominent after the Cold War. But liberal peace has also been strongly criticized as well. For example, it had been criticized for denying the agency of the local actor, focusing primarily on the role of the international actor. And this has also obscured source of conflict that has resulted from an exploitative international economic system and a neo-colonial Western-led international order. So then came another school of thought, which is called hybrid peace. Hybrid peace emerged as a criticism of the liberal peace. Hybrid peace try to offer a new way of looking at conflict, which is basically a fusion of local and international initiative and promised peace that is negotiated, situational, and context specific. So basically, hybrid peace give more emphasis on the role of local actors as well as international actors. But these two approaches still cannot really explain the situations in several contexts that have emerged in the past 20 years or so. So there is the third strand of concept, which is called illiberal peace or authoritarian conflict management. So I draw this concept from the work of David Lewis, Hettershaw, and Magarant. They wrote a paper on authoritarian mode of conflict management, or they call it ACM. So illiberal peace entail the prevention and the escalation or termination of organized armed rebellion or other mass social violence, such as internal riots, through methods that avoid genuine negotiation among parties to the conflict, reject international mediation, and constrain on the use of force. This regard calls to address underlying structural cause of conflict, and instead rely on instruments of state coercion and hierarchical structure of power. So you can see that these are the three modes of conflict management. This is very much linked to the state of democracy in a particular country. So, what happened in this sphere of peace building is linked to the state of democracy in the society at large. So I'll go a bit further to talk about illiberal peace. So what does it do? So the authoritarian policy response to internal armed conflict can be divided into these three domains. First is discourse. What the authoritarians do is to try to control the discourse. So they view that attempts to open space for discussion and communication are counterproductive and potentially dangerous because it offers opportunity for rivals to articulate grievances and mobilize support. So illiberal peace try to constrain dissenting voice and promote a hegemonic discourse. that seeks to delegitimize armed opponents of the state. The authoritarian actors achieve this aim by coercing or repressing alternative source of information and seek to control news dissemination and knowledge production. The authoritarian regime may act through the production of official discourse, undermining claim that rivals' campaigns are motivated by legitimate grievances. Secondly, they do this through space, controlling space, both military and civilian mode of controlling and shaping space. So the authoritarian actor will try to dominate political, physical, and symbolic space. And they could do this through military patrolling the area, encampment, occupying the area, as well as declaring the use of security law, such as martial law or emergency decree. Or they can use urban planning and architectures as a means to cement in new hierarchies of power. And the third way is to do this through political economy. The authoritarian actors may intervene in business and in economy, but these interventions are different from the liberal framework of post-conflict reconstruction. Sometimes, liberal peace also do this as well. They implement, development project to try to rebuild the society and also improve the quality of life of the people. But this is different because economic development have been used primarily with the aim of political destabilization, or to also increase royalty to the state. So these are the three modes that illiberal peace used to try to consolidate the power of the government through discourse, space, and political economy. So I'll go to the case of southern Thailand. So looking at the conflict management in the deep south of Thailand, I divide this into three phases. The first phase was between 2004 to 2012. That's the period before the start of the formal peace dialogue. And I categorize that period as illiberal peace building. And in 2013, there was a year that the formal peace process started, and it was a brief period of the experiment of liberal peace. And then we have the coup in 2014, and from that period onwards, I categorize that period as the return of illiberal peace. So when we look at this period from 2004 to 2012, the approach that's used by the Thai government, they try to control the discourse of the rebels, of the insurgents. They refuse to publicly recognize political dimension of the conflict. Some try to say that it was just ordinary crimes. They try to conceal the existence of the armed groups, using the term like violent instigator, people who disturb public peace, to call the fighter who use violence against the Thai state. The BRN at the time operates secretly. That it also make it difficult to identify who were actually the main actors in this conflict, and also open the rooms for the government to just interpret or misinterpret the situation. There was a term used at the time that the government was fighting with ghosts, because they cannot really tell who were actually, the kind of so-called enemy of the Thai state. The local military commander were also disallowed to mention the word BRN, to their subordinate. They cannot really say this because the Thai government doesn't want to kind of confirm the existence of the BRN. And autonomy was a taboo concept at the time. People cannot really talk about it in public. If you talk about this in seminars, then you will be deemed as sympathizing with the insurgent.
Dr. Rungarawi, you have 15 more minutes.
Thank you. So, secondly, the government tried to control the space by keeping this conflict as an internal affair, trying to prevent international actors from getting involved in this conflict. They try to refuse also offer from other country to provide assistance, especially when it comes to the Track 1 peace process. They also use military suppression. A lot of troops were mobilized into the area to control the area. A lot of checkpoints were set up and special law were implemented, particularly the martial law and the emergency decree, which allow the military, the security force to detain suspected insurgents without the court warrant. So this is an attempt to curtail the movement and the activities of the insurgent. And third, political economy. The government inject a lot of development projects into the area with the aim of winning the hearts and minds of the Malay Muslim people to strengthen the sense of Thainess and to increase loyalty to the Thai state and the Thai monarchy. But I also add the fourth way that the Thai state use as well, which is political co-optation. The Thai state used this method to try to neutralize the insurgent movement. They do this through legal bargaining. They would promise to, clear charges for the insurgent or suspected insurgents as a means to try to convince them to surrender. And this approach was used quite successfully during the Cold War when the Thai government fought with the communist insurgency. But this, policy were used, but it did not really help to quell the violence. The number of violence was still relatively high. Until 2013, we start to have this formalized peace process. During the time of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra, she introduced this formalized peace dialogue that facilitated by Malaysian government. The pictures that you see on the screen was the signing of the general consensus to launch a peace dialogue between the Thai government and the BRN. This happened on 28th of February 2013. So this is the document that was signed on that day, which the key point is that this dialogue is to be conducted within the framework of the Thai constitution. The implication of this is that the insurgent or the BRN could not really, they could talk about anything but independent. So after the signing of this general consensus, we start to see the existence of the BRN. We see, some faces like this guy, Hassan Tayyip, Ustad Hassan Tayyip, who was the head of the BRN delegation at the time. He came out on Facebook to talk about, the grievances of the BRN, what they were fighting for. And the BRN also submitted these five demands to the Thai government. They call for Malaysian government to play mediation, not just facilitation role. They requested that the dialogue should be held between the Patani people led by the BRN and what they call Siamese colonizers, and to allow ASEAN, OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and NGOs to witness the peace process. The fourth, which is, I think, is the most important one, it called for the recognition of Hak Ketuhanan, or the sovereign rights of the Patani Malay on the Patani land. And the last one is to release our political prisoner related to this conflict. So we start to hear these kind of grievances, a demand of the BRN for the first time, but the talk was short-lived. It was about just 8 months long, but it's still quite important in terms of changing the dynamics of this conflict. This is the first formal peace process that the Thai government has initiated with Malay Muslim insurgents. They have never done this before. Previous talks were all done in secret. Secondly, this is the first time that the Thai government allowed international involvement. Malaysia came in as facilitator of the peace dialogue. And the Thai government start to see the political dimension of this conflict. And also the last one, this is important because we start to see the BRN, which used to be, completely underground. They start to emerge and contribute to the public discourse. They talk about, the grievances of the Patani people and the aims, the goals of the BRN. So I call this the second phase as aborted liberal peace experiment, because it was really an attempt to explore liberal peace, but it was very much short-lived. Then we start to have, peace process in the third phase, which have been happening under military dictatorship. So we have the coup d'etat in 2014, the guide here, General Prayut Chan-o-cha. Yeah, he was the coup leader, and he also became the prime minister after the coup. The military government resumed the peace dialogue at my surprise. At first, I thought that they will just completely, abandon the formal peace process. Yes, General Prayut was one of the prominent, the vocal critique of the formal peace dialogue. But he decided to continue this. But then the direction has changed as well, although we still have formal peace process, but the military regime steered the dialogue with a liberal mindset, and it has become, although the peace dialogue still continue, it has become quite illiberal. So Mara Patani, this is an umbrella organization that was formed to represent the dialogue party after the coup, because BRN refused to join the peace dialogue. So this umbrella organization was formed. It's comprised of various fighters groups, BIPP, GMPP, Gerakan Mujahidin Islam Patani, Pulo, two factions of the Pulo, and some members of the BRN, but it did not really represent the leadership of the BRN. So Mara Patani, this case was a dialogue partner with the Thai government after the coup, but it really suffered legitimacy deficit, because the people were questioning about the ability to command and control the fighter on the ground, given the fact that the BRN leadership did not really endorse this process. So during the post-coup government, Mara Patani and the Thai government did not really make much headway. They were discussing about safety zones, as a pilot project, but it did not. It has never been implemented, because the Thai side refused to sign, the document, the general framework of safety zone, because they fear that Marapatani will try to use this to enhance their status in the eyes of the international community. So during the post-coup peace dialogue, we see this return of discursive control. The Thai government tried to control the discourse. They talk more about negative peace, which is like the attempts to curtail or stop physical violence, but they did not want to talk about positive peace or attempts to address the root cause of the conflict. And the BIN did not join this process, which also kind of like weakened the credibility of the process. Malaysia remains facilitator, but international involvement was very, very limited. So that was the characters of the process during the first Prayut government. Then we have the general election in 2019, and General Prayut came back again as the Prime Minister. He won the general election in 2019, although there was a lot of criticism of that election anyway, that there were a lot of corruption, and the way that the election commission calculate the result of the election was problematic. But anyway, he came back as the Prime Minister for the second time. And there were some progress with the peace process during that time, but it was still, in my analysis, it's still largely illiberal. But there was some significant progress during that time. The BRN decided to return to the dialogue table. Marapatani was sitting on the sideline this time, and the BRN and the Thai government signed this document, which is called General Principle of the Peace Dialogue Process. I think this is important, and that could really open the door for conflict management that could lead to a liberal peace. So in this document, there were 3 key points, and the most important one is that there is a phrase which say both parties will discuss and mutually seek political solution in accordance with the will of the Patani community under the unitary state of Thailand. This is an important phase because it shows the compromise between both sides, that the Thai government recognized the existence of Patani community, and at the same time, the fighter also recognized unitary state of Thailand. So that shows compromise on both sides. And they also agreed to implement a reduction of violence or cessation of hostility, and also to organize public consultation as a means to search for political solution. So this GP, General Principle, led to the JCPP, another acronym, which is the Joint Comprehensive Plan Towards Peace. The Thai government proposed this JCPP, as a framework to move ahead on public consultation and the reduction of violence or cessation of hostility. They plan to discuss these 5 key areas, which is form of governance, recognition of Patani community, identity and culture, human rights, justice and legal matters, economic and development, as well as education. So this looks nicely that, if they go on along this line, this could really, open up a meaningful discussions at the peace dialogue table. But then things doesn't really go as planned. So the JCPP was proposed at the very end of the Prayut II government. So during that time, this framework were laid out, and the discursive control continued, but there were more space for dissenting voice. Yeah, this is just to characterize the the dialogue under Period 2 government. The BRN returned to the dialogue table. Mara Patani were sitting on the sideline. Malaysia remained as a facilitator. There were greater space for international involvement, but still limited. There were some international NGO that became involved, facilitating the back channel talks between the Thai government and the BRN. Military government still focusing on quelling the violence, but there were more preparation to talk about substantive issues, as I had laid out. But then there was a new election in 2023, and then we see Pheu Thai Party, which is backed by Thaksin Shinawatra, return to power.
Dr. Rungarawi, you may conclude
Yes.
your presentation.
Okay, I will conclude very soon. So under this government, we are now in this period that Pheu Thai government, Pheu Thai-led government. Pheu Thai Party joined to pro-military party to form coalition government, and this composition has limited the opportunity of the government to initiate policy that challenge the military, including the situation in the south. So the government appointed this new facilitator, the head of the Peace Dialogue Panel, Kun Chatchai Bangchuat. He's a civilian. The head, at the time, he was the deputy head of the National Security Council, and he is now the head of the National Security Council. So to sum up that the peace dialogue under the Pheu Thai-led government, I'm questioning whether this is even more, illiberal than the previous government. That the prospect of the peace process is significantly curtailed by the lack of genuine democracy in Thailand. That the composition of the current government make it difficult to initiate new policy that challenge the military. And we start to see hardliners, particularly former generals, gaining more grounds in influencing conflict management in the Deep South. And the government is apparently inclined to take a more illiberal approach in dealing with the Southern conflict. We start to hear a lot more about the integration programs as a means for political co-optation. And this, as I mentioned earlier, that it was used accurately, it was used successfully during the Cold War, and the government tried to use it again in the Southern context. But maybe, the political context is very much different from the Cold War, and it may not be successful as it was during the Cold War. So the prospect of the peace process is very much, dimmed, and, there is no peace dialogue panel at the moment. After the change of the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, Pat Tongtan, still haven't really appointed a new head of the Peace Dialogue Panel. And we may not see the Peace Dialogue in the near future. And this will be a significant derail of the attempt, at using peace process to address the root cause of the conflict and to build sustainable peace in southern Thailand. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to having more discussion on this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rungarawi. Please give applause. So that is a very important concern that we have there from one of our neighboring country in Southeast Asia, how we have the military oppression right there as well. And the solution of the conflict management is also still authoritarian, just like mentioned by Dr. Rungarawi. They have illiberal peace building, which actually depoliticization of the conflict and sound like a manipulation of the victim of the conflict. Before we move on, the next part of this event is question and answer. But before that, we have two representatives. The first one is from Ikatan Keluarga Alumni Driyarkara. We have Mr. Arif Susanto, a political analyst who's going to represent ICAT regarding to the topic that we have today. For Mr. Arif Susanto, the stage is yours. Give applause, please, for Bapak Arif.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kak Retno, honorable audience. Well, we have learned a lot from Dr. Budi Hernawan and also Dr. Rung Rawi from Songkla University. They got, I think, an incredible insight. But I'd like here to take a note, notably about the fate of democracy that we have discussed before. First of all, it is heartbreaking, it is unacceptable actually, knowing that not only Thailand and Indonesia, but in general Southeast Asia region is an undemocratic region. Notably that we have fight for such a long time, at least since 80s, I think, to democratize this region, but lately we got some regression that we have talked about before. It is also an irony for me, at least, knowing that Timor-Leste, the youngest state in this region, is the one and only free country in this region. Well, it is irony. I mean, of course, we need to learn more about democracy, not only from Indonesia and Thailand, but also from Timor-Leste. But it is an irony knowing that Timor-Leste, they got independence, I think, in 2002. Thailand, Philippines, and also Indonesia got their own independence a long time before, but now I think we need to learn from Timor-Leste about democracy. There is no democracy in Brunei, you know. There is no democracy. There is no democracy in states like Singapore or Cambodia with their dominant party. We got no democracy in a single socialist party in Vietnam and also in Laos. Yeah? And also, we got no democracy in Myanmar with their own junta militer. But in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia, yeah, we got our own struggle in democracy because, you know, there are regression everywhere. But this is such a more difficult time for us because, you know, we live in such a hybrid regime. Yeah. We got nor completely authoritarian, but also not a completely democratic. We got such a hybrid regime. In such a hybrid regime, there are some innovative authoritarian. What I mean by innovative authoritarian is that government like in Indonesia, you know, they got some new instruments, not only to repress us, but also to cope. Yeah? You know, some people give their support for government, not only in Thailand, but also in Indonesia. You know why? Because government elected by a democratic election means that we cannot say that regime in Indonesia and also in Thailand are completely undemocratic. And this is not an easy situation, you know, because in previous time when we face an autocratic regime like Suharto, we can say that, well, we got common enemy like Suharto. But in Prabowo's era, in Jokowi's era, we have learned a lot that there are the organizing power, not only by military but also by oligarch, and this is our difficult time, unfortunately. Lastly, what to be done? What to be done? First of all, I'd like to propose that we need to integrate, to coalesce between civil society, not only in Indonesia and Thailand, but also in this region, because last time Indonesia learned a lot from Philippines. They got people power in 1986, I think. So this is the right time to integrate our movement. We have Gerakan Bersih in Malaysia, we have Indonesia Gelap here, and also I think in Thailand. And number two, of course, to propose a peace initiative, like mentioned before by Dr. Budi Hernawan and also by Dr. Rundawi. And then number three is, well, unfortunately, we need to renegotiate with the regime, because elite now, I told you before that not only military, government, but also oligarch in economic and politics. We need to renegotiate because they got too strong. Unfortunately, we are in a weak position right now. To oppose in a frontal way, I think, well, for me, it is not a wise choice, but to renegotiate, of course, we need to sacrifice some part of our political ideas. And lastly, ASEAN diplomacy. Well, this is also the worst thing to note, because ASEAN cooperate each other in some crisis before. We cooperate each other in economic crisis in 90s. We cooperate each other in a COVID crisis, maybe about a couple years ago. But now ASEAN seems like incapable to handle this crisis. Even some of us doesn't think that there is or there are crises in this region, democratic crisis. Well, we have a good cooperation in economy and also in healthcare. Why don't we have such a good cooperation to handle this situation, to renegotiate the pace, in order to give some more room of our democracy? That's all I think. Back to you, Kak Ratno. Thank you, everybody, and terima kasih to Dr. Rong Ravi.
Okay, give applause please for Pak Arif. Thank you very much. And the next one, we do have a representative online from Komunitas Papua. We have Romo Alexandro Rangga OFM, the director of GPIC OFM Papua. Romo Alexandro, are you here with us? Romo Alexandro Rangga. Apakah sudah hadir Pak Fristian? Romo Alexandronya? After the representative from Papua online, I will open the question and answer session. We will respond to 2 questions each, one from offline audience and one from online audience. The question can be asked using both Bahasa Indonesia and also English. For those who are using Bahasa Indonesia, I will help interpreting the main point of the question so our audience in Thailand can understand the message. Do we have Romo Alexandro? Okay, I think while waiting for Romo Alexandro to attend our online session and room, let's start with the question and answer. I think the MC will help me in distributing the microphone, and the operator, please, if there's online question also. So, any questions from the audience? Need to have a question.
I have two questions, one for both speakers today. As I listen to the talk of the both speakers today, I learned that the return of the alliance of military and oligarch bring bleak future to the faith of democracy and peace initiative, both in Indonesia and in Thailand. But my question is, are there ways of blocking the road to this return? Or at least, how to mitigate the negative impact of this return? These questions for both speakers. And for Pak Budi, can you explain to us why this food estate project, which is called the National Priority Project, will not bring peace to Papua, but instead will cause another social injustice? These are the two questions I would like to raise. Thank you.
Thank you. From Romo, I'm sorry. Romo Sudar. Okay, thank you. Right, do we have one online question? MC, could you please check the online chat if there's some question or some people who would like to turn on their microphone? No? Okay, so one more question from the audience on site. Do we have from over there? Please mention your name.
Okay, thanks. My name is Yon. I want to ask especially for Dr. Budi, because I have interest about 1 kilometer wide that you have presentation here. In your last writing last year, I think, in Life Encounter magazine, with the title, "Let's Bulldoze and Occupy Them Now. Dismantling the logic of outsourcing in the National Strategic Project for Food Estate and Energy in West Papua." In that writing, you also mentioned about a road 1 kilometer wide, especially the statement of Frankie Samprante, the director of Entala Rakyat. He said that the road project doesn't make sense. Where do you find in Indonesia a road with 1 kilometer wide? We suspect it's not only for roads, but for something else. But we don't know, and we don't have information. You must underline it. We don't know, and we don't have information from the government or the contractor, because they do not want to tell us. It's also questionable the role of the military in the field protecting the project. So my question are, can you think that can they do in that area, or can you imagine the aim of or purpose of that project? I think maybe in there they have other hidden project beside PSN or Merauke Food and Energy Estate that they have explained in public, or they say as the government policy. Thank you, Dr. Budi. That's my question.
Thank you very much, Jan. Give applause for both questioner, please. So the first question for both presenters, how do we tackle the negative impact of this return of the alliance of military and oligarchy? So Dr. Rungrawi or Dr. Budi would like to answer first. Which one? Maybe Dr. Rungrawi first. So what do you think, Dr. Rungrawi? How do we tackle this negative impact of the return of military and oligarchy, specifically in Thailand?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what can be done. First, I think there have been attempts in Thailand to try to amend the constitution and make penalize those who may stage a coup d'etat in the future. But certainly this is very difficult. There has been attempt to try to block this initiative. But that is one way of doing it, that anyone who stage, normally when the military stage a coup, right, they just tear apart the constitution. We have a lot of constitution in this country. But one way of stopping it is to penalize those who would do this in the future. But it is very hard to push that through in the parliament as well. Secondly, it's about security sector reform. I'm actually also doing another research project on this issue, that I have been interviewing military officers, those in the mid-ranking, low-ranking military officers. When we interview them and ask them about their opinions of military coup, majority of them would say that, they actually do not support coup d'etat. They are in this profession and they want people to see them as professional. So they do not really support, military intervention into politics. So if we kind of cultivate this sense of, professionals, army, right? So in the long run, maybe, there may be this kind of sense of professionalism within the army, and that may prevent, their inclination to intervene into politics. And it seems that democracy had not really taken the deep root in Thailand. And this is something that we also have to, cultivate. I've seen also that in the case of Indonesia, the middle class is really not the defenders of democracy as we would want it to be, right? It's the same as in Thailand back in 2000. In 1990, right? We have this May 1992 uprising during which the middle class came out as the defenders of democracy. But then we start to see the middle class playing a different roles 2 decades, in the previous 2 decades. Some of them had come out to support the coup d'etat. They have no faith in politicians. Maybe we have to try to increase this kind of confidence in the parliamentary system. No matter what happens, then things has to be resolved through parliamentary means, right? And I think learn the lessons that military coup never resolved the problem. We have 2 military coups for the past 2 decades. And it has not really helped to resolve the problem. Any military coup leaders would talk about corruption, but can that actually, eradicate corruption? Is even make things worse? So, we have to cultivate the sense of, the values of democracy in the minds of the population, particularly in the eyes of the middle class, that democracy is really, is the main game, right? You can't really go for an alternative because that's not really going to solve the problem. So I think this is something we can probably cultivate in the long run, but it is still really a challenging task. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rungrawi. Before we hear Dr. Budi's response, I think Romo Alexandro is online now to avoid any more technical issue. I think we can go to Romo Alexandro first. Romo, are you here with us? So we can see the Zoom account on screen, yeah? Okay. Romo?
Yes, sorry for being late.
Okay, give applause for Romo Alexandro, please.
I'm still running to my office because I had a bad internet connection in the other room. So, okay.
Okay, Romo, you may start. Romo Alexandro, can you respond?
Hello?
Yes, Romo, go ahead.
Okay. I'm so sorry for being late once again. Okay, I will, because it's already late, so I will start directly some critical notes for the paper that presented by Budi Hernawan. So, in summary, Budi Hernawan highlights the interconnected issues of oligarchic influence and economic inequality, military expansion and lack of accountability, human rights violations and impunity, civil-military relations and governance, peace initiatives and political dialogue, internal displaced persons, and humanitarian concern and environmental degradation and resource exploitation that affect both Indonesia and Papua. So I will examining the situation in Indonesia and Papua actually through the lens of authoritarian conflict management that reveals three critical points based on Ms. Rungravi. Sorry, or correct if I'm wrong. Rungravi, right? Yeah. So the first is discourse about the state propaganda, information control, and knowledge production. So in Indonesia, the state employs propaganda and information control to shape public perception and suppress dissent. This includes controlling the media and academia to produce knowledge that supports the ruling elite's narrative. While in Papua, the state's narrative frames the region as a security threat, justifying military presence and actions. Information about human rights abuses and the aspiration of the Papuan people is often suppressed. This controlled discourse prevents genuine dialogue and understanding, perpetuating conflict and mistrust. For example, last month, we organized a program called Campaigning Papuan Issues to People Outside Papua as a part of our counter-narrative efforts. So during the program, one of the participants, upon hearing about the real situation on the ground from the grassroots level in West Papua, remarked that they received all the information about Papua from the news or the television as truth. So while we who lives in West Papua, especially journalists and activists who speak out about the realities of life in Papua, often face intimidation, harassment, and even threats to their safety. So, for example, until now, the case of Yan Varinusi and Jubi's office bombing is still unrevealed. Of course, additionally, due to the difficult geographical conditions, especially in remote areas, much of the information about Papua comes from police or military sources. So like we only have, until now, we only have Jubis that always give us a lot of information that from the ground, while the other always, they always got the information from the police or the military. The second is space. When we talk about space, about the military and civilian modes for controlling and shaping spaces. I think I will not repeat what already Buddhist explained in Indonesian context, but in Papua, the military's presence is pervasive, with operation extending into daily life. The military controls significant areas, restricting movement and access to resources. This militarization disrupts civilian life and reinforces the state dominance, contributing to ongoing conflict and instability. The situation leaves Papuans feeling unsafe, not only because of the long history of trauma, but also because they are often suspected of being part of the Free Papuan Movement, or OPM, or TPNPB. So, for example, when we go to remote area like Maybrat or Oksibil, people will say it is strange, an odd situation, because when we want to go to our own gardens, we have to report or ask for permission at military guard post. So that's the situation, or like the space controlling and shaping spaces in West Papua. While when we talk about the political economy, for example, in Indonesia, the hierarchical distribution of resources in Indonesia favors the oligarchs and entrenches their political power. And I think the same thing happened in West Papua. For example, the distribution of resources prioritizes business interests and extractive industries, often at the expense of local communities. The wealth generated from these resources benefits a few, while the majority of Papuans face economic deprivation and environmental degradation. So this economic marginalization fuels resentment and conflict. The intervening of economic policies with business actors, politicians, and spontaneous transmigrants has led to an influx of newcomers or to newly autonomous regions, because right now we have 4 new autonomous regions, which become 4 new provinces in West Papua, which further squeezing the indigenous Papuans. So, like, for example, we can see the case of PSN, the National Strategic Programs in Merauke. So, based on Buddhist paper, but also the real situation from the ground in West Papua, I think we can see how the state's reliance on coercion, control of information, and hierarchical resource distribution shapes the conflict dynamics in West Papua. So the state propaganda and information control create a one-side narrative that justifies the use of force and suppresses dissenting voices from the people in the ground, while the militarization of both military and civilian spaces consolidates state power and disrupts civilian life. And the last one, the unequal distribution of resources reinforces the power of the elite and perpetuates economic disparities, leading to social tensions and conflict. So while we be concerned on vertical conflict, right now we have to face with horizontal conflict between the Papuan, but also the newcomers between Papuan and Papuan, because they comes from various regions in Papua. So I think that's all that I could present to you all. Thank you very much.
Give applause for Romo Alexandro, please. Thank you very much, Romo Alexandro. Now we go back to the question and answer session. So we have 2 people asking question, and both are for Romo Budi. The first one is Romo Sudar. How do we tackle the negative impact of the return of the military and oligarchy in Indonesia? And also, I think Romo Sudar also questioning some questionable decision from the government to Romo Pak Budi. And then from Yon, there's an interesting question about the 1 kilometer road, and that is a very smart question. Is there any hidden project that you know about this road in Papua? Go ahead, Dr. Budi.
Test. Test. Okay. Check. So thank you, Ramasudar, for the two questions. And it's really challenging for us to see that borrowing the framework from Dr. Murawi, that 4 elements of illiberal space, illiberal peace, have been sort of occupied. So Dr. Murawi talked about discourse, space, political economy, and political cooptation. I guess as academia, we have 2 spheres or 2 areas that we can sort of have more freedom to engage. First is about space. In the last week or so, we already seen that many students took to the street in different cities. This is very important for our democratic, not only democratic campaign, but democratic struggle to occupy the space. This is very important that we present to the public that we still have freedom in public space. And our students, when they join Kamisan, is not only contribute to Kamisan itself, but it's contribute to dismantle the logic that the space has been under control of the oligarchy and the military. So that's the first element, that we need to join forces with those who have been on the street. A couple of days ago, I guess, I only watched in the social media, and then the rector of UGM joined the demonstration in UGM and giving speech very clear. This kind of contribution from our academic space is very important. Secondly, in the area of discourse, because the regime try to claim that they have legitimacy. With 58% of the electorate already in their hands, they try to show and to prove that first they meet their promise, like the program of national lunch, free national lunch. So they have to do it because they already promised. And the 58% of Indonesians waiting for the answer for that. Our role, my suggestion would be as academics to dismantle the logic, how legitimate it is to claim that MBG is funded by the state. Now they cut the funding from different department and on the regional budget too. Does it legitimate? There's our call as academics to contribute to the public discourse to dismantle this logic before it has been consolidated. Because luckily, it's still like maybe 3 months or so, October, November, December, January. 5 months. We don't need 5 years before it's been consolidated, and we need to join forces. Another space that we already have is a strong statement, for instance, from the Archbishop of Ende, that we need to amplify across the country that it was not legitimate just to drill down all the areas that people live without any consent. Because if we see from Bung Rawin, the 2 other elements, political economy structure and political occupation, is quite difficult for us, it's quite distant because we're not engaged in that reality. But our role as academics, as students, we should engage in occupying our space and dismantling the logic that this regime is legitimate. whatever in reality it might be. One way is to speak up more and more, and luckily we are not alone. So many discussion about oligarchy this week or last week in different fora. And I believe many of us here have previous experience how to engage with the new order for 34 years or so. So this kind of wisdom that we need to discuss more and more publicly. Secondly, on the issue of food estate, I would join response to Yon. The impact of PSN to Papua is tremendous. Why? Because this is the last reserve in Indonesia. Kalimantan is gone, Sulawesi is gone, Sumatra long time ago. The only thing that they still can have mineral, they can have gold, and they can have anything else is Papua. That's the last resort. Fortunately, we have strong kind of Papua resilience against the one-way top-down policy about for food estate. But at the moment, the indigenous Papuans, masyarakat adat, they already established what is called Forum Solidaritas Merauke. This is comprises of indigenous leaders, civil society organizations to oppose this project. And next month, they will organize, and I joined this forum, organize a national forum of PSN in Merauke. So all PSN affected people, communities from Rempang, from Halmahera, from others will get together in Merauke and discuss this and make strategies. So we can see that we are not all alone. We have friends here and there, and our role may be to amplify their voice to the public discourse. That's what we need, because they might be not able to influence the policymakers with the language, but academics are able to translate this language into policy language. And for the empirical question about the road, it's all about secrecy. So nobody knows what will happen with 1 kilometers wide road and 136 kilometers long. If we learn from East Timor experience, the Indonesian authorities at that time also built very, very good road across Timor-Leste. For what? To make sure that troops deployment, movement is easily mobilized across the country. So in Papua, in this case in Merauke, technically is still questionable, because there are many parts that is deep pit land and all kind of geographical, technical issues. But in theory, it would mobilize how they can extract those resources easily and without any scrutiny from, let's say, first media, second the public opinion, and third, it will be guarded and has been guarded by the beloved military, the army. They already guarded the area. So the answer is we don't know, and they don't want to tell. It's our task to ask questions publicly. Thank you.
All right, give applause, please. So thank you very much, Dr. Rungrawi and also Dr. Budi for the response. Now we have reached the end of our event today. I can conclude that out of so many useful information from both speakers, we can see from Dr. Budi's explanation that oligarchy is not good for democracy, especially in Indonesia itself. And then for in Thailand case, there are an effort of solution. Unfortunately, it's still authoritarian and it's not appropriate for this situation, either in Thai or even in Indonesia. And to solve the problems, both speakers mentioned that we need to penalize the perpetrator of the violence itself. Even though it's the government, it's the country, they have to understand that what they do is not right. And then Dr. Budi then added some thoughts that as academics, we can also support those who are in oppression by doing more analysis, provide solution, and of course to do more activities like this, publish some thoughts. And some students here, probably you can also share your thoughts and opinion via your one of the strongest weapon that we have here, the social network media. And hopefully by discussion like this, the collaboration between two institutions, STF Driyarkara and also Institute of Peace Studies, Prince of Songkla University, can also give solution to support those people who are in oppression, especially under the military and oligarchy, either in Indonesia or either in Thailand, and probably for the whole Southeast Asian nations. I think that's it for today. Thank you for coming online and on-site, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and have a good day.
Now, as we approach the conclusion of this seminar, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to all our speakers, our moderator, and all participants for their engagement.
Before concluding our seminar, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our esteemed speakers and moderator. We now invite the organizing committee to present tokens of appreciation. And we invite Dr. Simon, the Director of STF Driyarkara, to deliver the token of appreciation to the speaker and moderator. Thank you very much, Dr. Simon. For the participants requiring the e-certificate, there will be QR code on the screen, and also the QR code will be present on the registration desk in the down floor.
Okay, now, before we continue, all of us will take a photo together. So the cameraman will be from here, and we can all stand together from here to take our photo taken together. All audience, please stand up. Now we can scan for the barcode, so prepare your phones and scan the barcode for the certificate. Now, as we bring the seminar to a close, before we close it, now please stand up again and for an exhortation that will be led by Romo Simon. Please all of us stand.
Terima kasih. Berikut ini adalah pernyataan sama yang memuat beberapa keprihatinan sebagaimana tadi disampaikan oleh kedua narasumber dan juga beberapa usul kepada pemerintah. Ini sudah kami bicarakan bersama sehingga mau disampaikan kepada publik sekarang ini. Judulnya adalah Seruan Sekolah-Sekolah Tinggi Filsafat Teologi di Indonesia. Kembalikan marwah demokrasi dan keadilan bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Jakarta, Sabtu 22 Februari 2025. Reformasi 1998 telah mengembalikan marwah demokrasi yang bebas dari praktek korupsi, kolusi, dan nepotisme dengan keterlibatan alat negara di dalamnya ke dalam sistem ketatanegaraan kita. Demokrasi memberikan ruang kebebasan dan perlindungan hak asasi manusia bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia yang sebelumnya dibelenggu oleh rejim militeristik Orde Baru selama 32 tahun. Namun, setelah hampir 3 dekade, marwah tersebut digerus oleh kelompok elit baru yang berkelindan dengan kekuatan alat negara, merusak demokrasi dengan corak-coraknya antara lain. Pertama, makin merebaknya sistem klientelisme. 2. Pelibatan kembali alat negara ke ranah sipil. 3. Maraknya praktek korupsi pada berbagai institusi negara dengan akibat jurang kaya miskin yang semakin menganga. 4. Oligarki yang menggurita hingga memengaruhi kinerja sistem tata negara kita. Dan akhirnya, kelima, wilayah-wilayah negara kesatuan Republik Indonesia, terutama Papua, yang makin jauh dari keadilan dan situasi damai. Berdasarkan itu, kepada segenap pemangku jabatan negara dan aparat pemerintahan, kami menyerukan agar pertama, mengembalikan kedaulatan rakyat dalam semua mekanisme pengambilan keputusan pada lembaga legislatif, eksekutif, dan yudikatif, sehingga produk keputusan politik dan hukum sungguh mengutamakan terwujudnya keadilan sosial bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia, bukannya menguntungkan pihak oligarki, apalagi pihak keluarga. Kedua, kami serukan untuk merombak sistem tata kelola keuangan negara dan fiskal, sehingga kekayaan negeri ini dapat dipergunakan sebesar-besarnya bagi kesejahteraan semua orang. Ketiga, mengembalikan peran TNI sebagai benteng pertahanan negara yang profesional, sesuai dengan Undang-Undang TNI Nomor 34 /2004 dalam menghadapi tantangan keamanan global sehingga tidak mencampuri urusan tata kelola pemerintahan di segala jenjang. Keempat, mengambil langkah-langkah dialog dan upaya-upaya damai di tanah Papua, termasuk memberikan bantuan kemanusiaan kepada para pengungsi internal yang hingga kini belum bisa kembali ke kampung halaman mereka, Maibrat dan Duga. Memulihkan otonomi khusus pemerintah daerah sesuai Undang-Undang Nomor 21 tahun 2000 dan Undang-Undang Nomor 2 tahun 2021, serta menyelesaikan konflik bersenjata yang telah berlangsung lama selama 5 dekade. Yang kelima, mengevaluasi sungguh-sungguh proyek-proyek nasional yang berdampak kerusakan serius pada lingkungan, perampasan tanah rakyat, dan peminggiran masyarakat adat, seperti rencana pembukaan lahan jutaan hektar untuk pangan dan energi di seluruh Indonesia. Harap dievaluasi sungguh-sungguh secara serius. Dikeluarkan di Jakarta, berikutnya adalah tanda tangan dari para pimpinan Sekolah Tinggi Filsafat Teologi di Indonesia. Terima kasih, sekian.
Now let us sing the song Maju Tak Gentar.
With that, we officially close the international seminar of the 56th Dies Natalis of STF Driyarkara. Thank you all for your participation, and we hope to see you again in future discussions and collaborations. Enjoy your lunch and have a wonderful day ahead. The lunch will be provided by the committee, maybe outside this room. And while we enjoy the lunch, there will be some singing by sisters. Thank you very much.
cek.
Trying to hold my breath, let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You said of a dream in me, getting louder. Can you hear it echoing? Share this with me, 'cause traveling without you, all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough, will never be enough.
Are still too little. This can't go on and on, but it'll never be enough. Never be enough for me.
Pengumuman, untuk anggota panitia di Natalis, mungkin sebelum turun dari auditorium kita bisa bantu bersama-sama merapikan kursi yang ada ya, seperti itu. Terima kasih.